So we've managed to establish then that the levels that should be used, and if used at that level, is the correct use of the collar. There's no requirement to shock dogs. It's just that gentle stim, and it's a cue. It's a cue to say, I'm about to ask you to do something. I'm getting her attention. She feels tap, tap, tap. And she goes, right, he's going to ask me to do something now. This is how it works. There's no pain, there's no fear. I'm not frightening her into come back. If she was frightened of me, she wouldn't come back. There's a process, and you need to rep this hundreds, if not thousands of times. So I'm going to try, I'm filming this on my own, but I'm going to try and give you a broken down example of exactly what I'm doing. The notion that positive only reinforcement training takes longer and balance training is lazy, etc, etc. It's not true. This takes weeks, it takes months to properly remote collar train a dog. Then you start to wean the dog off of the collar. That's how it works. It's not lazy. It's not lazy at all. So what we're going to do is we are going to activate the collar. Button 1, you can see the lightning strikes, so that's electrical stimulus. She's on a level 2 of 40. So we activate the collar, we give her the command. The second she turns and engages with me, collar goes off. I mark her decision, good behaviour, to turn and start coming back to me, and I mark that with yes. You can say good girl, you can say whatever you want, you just make it a positive word. And when she gets back to me, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show that because I'm going to need about 7 hands, but then when she comes back to me, she gets a food reward. So guess what? This is positive reinforcement. I'm positively reinforcing her decision to come back to me when she feels the stim of the collar. Remember, it's at a very, 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 very low level that she can barely feel. All it is just me tapping her on the shoulder. I've effectively got her on a lead without her being on a lead. I'm able to place a physical thing, a physical intervention to say, tap, tap, and for her to go, right, that's my dad. And my dad wants me to do something, and it gets her attention, because that's what I've conditioned. So, let's see how we get on. Level 2. Session cup? Yes! Good girl! Good girl! Yes! Good girl! Good girl! Session cup? Yes! Good girl! Good girl! Now, some of you may or may not be aware that e-collars, remote collars, are set to be criminalised in this country. They are set to be banned. The government have conducted studies and they've got their evidence. and Ecollars no good, aversive, etc, etc, punitive. I joined the Arlo campaign, spearheaded by Jamie Penrith, great guy, good advocate and a good example of correct e-collar training. And part of that campaign was to send a letter to your local MP explaining, about correct use and etc, etc, etc. I had a reply from my local MP. It was copy and pasted from Michael Gove's statement that he issued about them, and it was using terms like shock collar and punitive, and citing things like the use of a shock collar can, in the case of behaviours like aggression and things like that, it could make them worse. Yeah, it could. You're right. That's why I don't use them for behaviours like aggression. Fact. Obviously, you're not going to give a dog electrical stimulation when it's in a high frame of mind if it's being aggressive. That's just ludicrous. It's lunacy. But where it then fails and it affects good trainers and good users of remote collars are for things like we're discussing, like I would use them for, which is like prey drive, prey chase. The evidence that they've gathered was from something called the Lincoln study, and that was cited in the reply from my local MP. Again, copy and pasted from Michael Gove's statement on them when he announced the ban. The Lincoln study was conducted a few years ago, and just basically it was conducted by trainers, behaviourists. There was 2 sets of dogs. It was a massively flawed experiment, and it was actually then taken apart by a gentleman from America. I'll put his details up on the screen. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but basically he is somebody who has many published papers about canine behaviour, and he absolutely took the Lincoln study apart, absolutely annihilated it, and showed so many things of that experiment that were causes of misresult, and it wasn't consistent. And I'll put a link to his report in the description for the video so you can read it for yourself. But unfortunately, because this is agenda driven and not actually science driven at all, the Lincoln study was listened to, and they've decided that they're going to go ahead with the ban, just like some of the other countries in Europe already have.